Thank you, Greg, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here. I love presenting to Westpac crowds. I've never met such a group of switched-on people, and I've presented at a number of events, and it's just wonderful. I get such a great vibe from speaking to all of you. So today, I'm going to take you well out of the world of the traditional business and finance presentations that you might hear into the future of travel. And this is an industry that has been massively disrupted by digital technologies. Think back 25 years ago. 1991 was the very first web page ever, but it was a web page that was really used only in military and research circles. It wasn't until 1997, with the invention of Netscape, the web browser, that we started to see the World Wide Web as we know it. And that's what actually started to change the travel industry, but very, very slowly. In 2000, we started to get good speed broadband. Not great. Today we're still not great, especially here in Australia compared to some other places. But that made a lot of things possible. But then it accelerated by the time we got to about 2007, where we had really decent broadband speeds that allowed us a lot of interactivity with websites as well as smartphones. And smartphones really were a game changer. So in the travel industry, some of the disruptions that happened were airlines having online booking portals, hotels that had online booking portals, peer reviews that you could see before you decide to book everything, and the advent of new technologies that are platform-based. For example, Airbnb. Airbnb has been an absolutely huge disruptor of the travel industry. And if you think about it, they don't own any property other than computer code. They don't own the rooms that they're renting out. They don't own or have direct relationships really with the people that are doing the booking, and they're providing the sharing economy platform. And it has been a massive disruptor to the hotel space. In fact, in the latest figures that I saw for the travel industry, 18% of hotel rooms that have been booked have been through Airbnb, and they're not actually hotel rooms, they're rooms in people's houses. And it's not just hotels that they're going after. They're going after the rental market right now. And for real estate agents, this is a big deal. A lot of real estate companies actually count on property leasing for a large chunk of their revenue. And Airbnb is eating into it, where a lot of investors are now saying, well, why should I rent my property at X thousand a month when I can actually be making a whole lot more if I have transient people coming through and I'm selling on a nightly or a weekly basis. But it's having another ripple effect on the neighbors, the other people in the neighborhood who aren't real happy about having all these transient people coming through back and forth and back and forth. Airbnb is moving into another new area, and that's called experiences. And you may not have heard of this yet, because it's a new initiative from them. What they are looking to do is to hook up people who are making reservations on Airbnb with specialized knowledge in a local area. One of the very first experiences that they've rolled out is in Paris, and it's in conjunction with the Aquarium de Paris, where they have designed an underwater bedroom in a shark tank. So let me just show you what this looks like, and we'll keep the audio low so I can talk over it. Part of the experience of having a night in this bedroom in the shark tank is that you're not just sitting there looking at these animals. You're actually hosted by Fred Boyle, who is a renowned free diver and a conservationist, and you get a tour of the facility with a marine biologist. So you're learning about the life of sharks and their place in the ecosystem and how they fit into the world other than in horror movies like Sharknado. It's a really interesting experience, but they're looking to try to develop these unique experiences all over the world with different kinds of people. One of the questions that I have, though, is how well will that scale? For instance, if you want to have a unique experience with a renowned photographer or artist, will they always be available when you want to book them? You know, so there are some issues there, but it's an exciting new area. So where else will people want to go in the future? And unusual places will always feature up there. So quick poll. How many of you think that this is a sci-fi picture? Just raise your hands, don't be shy. Okay, how many of you think this is a real city? It's Moscow. Now, for people who live in the West, like us, going into a former communist country counts as a unique experience, you know, going into a new culture. It's fun, it's interesting. People will always want to do that. There will also be a place for unique experiences, and these photos are from Dubai. It's actually a man-made island, and it's Atlantis the Palms. And in this island, which is shaped after the legendary Atlantis, which, you know, supposedly was an ancient civilization well before the dawn of our current quote, mankind. It is a resort that has these 2 luxury suites that are underwater. They're 3 stories tall. They have 17,000 square feet, and they're completely transparent, built into this man-made island, and you can see 65,000 different kinds of marine animals in these underwater suites. Underwater tourism is one area that's going to take off in the future. There are also concept designs for cruise ships and other travel vehicles that go well out of today's thinking. This is a concept design right now. It's not real, but it's a cruise ship that's half a mile long based on a human spine. So the ship can move its spine in different directions, and it's solar powered and powered by the waves, and it just slowly sort of surfs around the world. Now on it, it's luxury equipped. You've got all kinds of gardens, and you've also got things like this up here, which is a helipad, so you can get on and off, and when you dock at a city, that's your gangplank to get on and off. Some of these luxury suites, like these here, are detachable separate boats that allow you to go sailing around on your own within the vicinity of the ship. And not only that, but the ship is able to curl its arms like this and actually create its own at-sea port. It's a truly innovative design, and when I look at some of the designs for hotels and transport of the future, there are some pretty mind-blowing things, including air clouds and all sorts of other stuff. People will still want to go to beautiful places. You know, chilling out is an important part of, I think, just being human. For me, chilling out means time out from electronics and the constant 24/7 barrage of emails and phone calls. It just never stops. And even for people who work for companies, I mean, how many of you answer emails outside of your normal working hours or get emails? You know, raise your hands, right? Most of us. What I do, I go deep into the Amazon jungle, and I go to places that are completely cut off from communications and from electricity for about a month at a time. And it allows me to actually disconnect and reconnect with who I am. And I'll tell you what, it is the most exhilarating thing I have ever done, and I've done it a few times, and I will definitely be doing it again. This is actually me next to a gigantic lacuna tree in the Amazon jungle. And then once I finish doing my deep meditation and my imagination of the future, I then go off and look at archaeological sites and see what's interesting in the country. We're going to see a lot of medical tourism as well. Now, today, you've probably heard of people who will fly to another country, perhaps to get cheap plastic surgery, or maybe they have a medical condition that the specialist is in another country, but it's not really a big industry. Well, that's going to change pretty soon. There is some incredible work happening in the area of regenerative medicine, and in particular with stem cells. Stem cells can be harvested in a number of different ways, and it's only recently that it's really started to catch on. So about 20 years ago, the way that researchers were harvesting stem cells was from aborted fetuses, from the embryos, and a lot of people really pushed back on that for a whole bunch of different reasons, ethical, religious, and so on. Today there are two ways that you can harvest stem cells. One is from your own bone marrow, but it is a little bit painful. The other, which is a really cool way of doing it, is through a tiny liposuction procedure. Basically what they're using is autologous fat, so fat from your own body. They're spinning it off in a centrifuge and separating out the stem cells, and then injecting your own stem cells back into your own body, both intravenously and directly into an area that requires repair. So it may be cartilage in your knees, or you might have back problems, or maybe you have an autoimmune disease. In this picture, this particular doctor, Chris Dumas, he's a neurosurgeon, and he's been using stem cells with an Alzheimer patient, and he's now got 19 of them that he's working with. And one of his patients, the first, Jack Sage, is 82 years old. He's had 8 stem cell treatments. He has Alzheimer's. So typically when you have Alzheimer's, you start to decline pretty rapidly. Well, what Chris is doing is he's injecting the stem cells directly into a stent in Jack's brain. And after 8 treatments, Jack's memories are starting to return. He knows the names of all of his kids. He can remember details about jobs in the early parts of his career, in the middle parts of his career, and so on. The size of the hippocampus in his brain is actually increasing, and his memory scores are increasing as well. Now, this is still very experimental, but when I look at stem cells and the potential to use our own body's substances to fix the things that are making us sick, I can see this as an absolutely huge industry. And right now, for regulatory reasons in Australia, they're not able to use the liposuction method of stem cell treatment. And the other treatments are actually substantially more expensive and more invasive. So I think we're going to start to see a lot of medical tourism to take advantage of this and other technologies that are being developed in the world of regenerative medicine. Another really interesting technology, if you like, that's being worked on very seriously by many research labs around the world is genetic engineering. And there was a breakthrough late last year by the Salk Institute that they published in one of the scientific journals, where they have proven that they are able to take cells from mice and humans in vitro in a petri dish and actually reverse aging. In the world of genetic engineering, there's a theory that aging is caused by epigenetic changes, basically changes to our genetic makeup, and that we should and will, and very shortly, will be able to reverse that. Now, not only have they been able to do that in a petri dish, they also had one live mouse that had progeria, which is that rapid aging disease that humans have as well, and they were able to reverse aging in a live mouse, and they were also able to fix another medical condition in a live mouse. Genetic engineers believe that in the next 10-15 years or so, we will start to be able to reverse aging in live humans. In 20 years, you might be 80 or 100 years old and be able to reverse the genes in your body to be a 16-year-old body or a 20-year-old body or whatever you pick. It goes even further than that. There's a physicist who I was listening to a podcast from a little while ago, Professor Yonir Baryam, and he believes that there's actually a genetic switch in our bodies that controls the complete aging process, and that we'll be able to find that switch in the next 10 to 20 years and literally turn it to off, and that the human lifespan will expand from 5 to 10 times today's lifespan. He believes that the first person to live to be 400 years old is being born this year in 2017. Think about that for a moment. Imagine living to be 400 or 800 years old. Yeah. We'll take questions afterwards, okay? That's pretty mind-blowing, huh? It gets even better. One of the jobs that we'll see in the future, starting in the late 2030s, but really taking off in the 2040s and 2050s, will be genetic engineers who do 3D genetic design of your body. So imagine that you don't like the shape of your nose or your lips. Well, no more plastic surgery. You'll have a genetic designer redesign it for you, and it will just happen. Or let's say you actually are doing outer space colonization, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. You might have new appendages that are designed for specific atmospheric environments or space environments, or you might decide that you just want to make an artistic statement and have some different appendage on your body, much like you might have a tattoo today, but with this kind of genetic artistry, you might be able to do it, have it for a few years, and then undo it and have something else. So back to today in the travel industry. In the travel industry, they're already making a great use of a technology called augmented reality, which I know that all of you have heard the term. And you can use it with smartphones, smart glasses, and in the future I'll tell you about something else as well. But it's really handy for travel because all you need to do is just hold up your phone, and because you've got a GPS and a camera, you can get all kinds of extra information about the places that you're traveling to. In tourist sites, I'm already starting to see where certain locations are putting up these transparent glass panels in front of decayed monuments. And when you look at them, you can see the monument in real life as it is today, but superimposed on it, you can see what it looked like back in its heyday, which is a really cool use of the technology. We're also going to see augmented reality in the movie industry and in immersive experiences. I'd like to show you a short clip of something that Lucasfilms is doing with the Star Wars, I guess I would say trilogy, but trilogy of trilogies is really the right word, and augmented reality. So this is just a little short clip for you. Now, you'll see that the pictures that you see of the Star Wars look kind of fuzzy, and that's because you're not wearing the special augmented reality glasses. Can we just pipe up the volume on this a little bit?
And we're here at Sundance showing an installation of what immersive entertainment might look like in the future. So when you walk into this space, the environment we put you in, which is on the desert of Jakku, is completely surrounding you and enveloping you. We call it the hollow cinema because really the characters in the environment come off the walls and into the space like a hologram would. Our installation here at Sundance really mimics augmented reality more than just virtual reality. And by that we mean you're actually seeing the real world, you're seeing the people around you, and then we're adding a synthetic world to that world. So the way the installation works is the person who's going to be immersed in the experience just puts on these little lightweight glasses. They're actually active shutter glasses that allow us to put 3D images in. And then we project 3D pixels with lots of projectors all on all the walls and the floor. So what that lets us do with our system is create our 3D environment and put it into the room with you. So when you look at those walls, if you look at them without the glasses, of course, you just see the projection on the walls and you see a little bit of a double image. Once you put those glasses on and walk into that space, we know exactly where you are. We can make the perspective correct. So it feels completely immersive, and the walls kind of disappear, and all of a sudden you kind of feel like you're standing on Baku. And then when C-3PO or BB-8 walk right up to you, it kind of feels like they're standing right in front of you, so it's quite immersive.
And you'll be able to see the other people that are in there with you as well. And this is just one example of the kind of new travel experience that people will be doing in the very near future. One of the other things that Lucasfilms and other filmmakers are looking to do with this is to have these immersive experiences which are digital before they build the sets, so that they can actually walk around a set in real time, see what it might be like interacting with the characters, not spend the money building the set and then building the set afterwards. Augmented reality is going to be an absolutely huge deal. How many of you have tried on augmented reality glasses? Good part of you. Okay, for those of you who haven't, there are a number of meetups in the Sydney area that are augmented and virtual reality meetups where you can sign up for free, and most events are free, and you can actually go to demos and try on some of these different things, and you might want to do it. Two of the most popular glasses right now are the Meta 2, which is on the left, and Microsoft HoloLens, which is on the right. Now, in the travel industry, you can imagine that you're walking into a hotel room, and I travel a lot, and there's always something about the room that I need to know, like how do I get the heat to the right temperature, or the air conditioning, or how do I switch something on, or where is something? If I had a set of augmented reality glasses and the hotel or venue that I was staying at had an app that let me see that information, then I can actually interact in real time. And not only that, with the cameras in augmented reality glasses, if I'm calling the front desk and I'm saying, well, the heater's not coming on, I'm freezing, they can see what I'm seeing and superimpose, which way I'm supposed to turn things, and, the possibilities in the travel industry are endless. Another innovation in the AR space, which is very similar but on the operational side, is this smart helmet, which is on the bottom right from a company called Daiquiri. And it's basically designed for people in the construction space. So you've got that protection of your head, but you've got augmented reality glasses as well. So if you can imagine that you're in a big hotel complex and there's like rows of pipes and all sorts of things, you can see superimposed on what you're looking at what's in those pipes, the temperature, the pressure. You can see the gauges on which way to turn things. It's pretty incredible. Biometrics is going to be an absolutely huge part of all of our futures, especially in the banking and finance sector, but also in the travel and leisure sector too. Facial recognition is getting very, very good. Although I do have to say, the bigger the database of faces that you have, the higher the likelihood of misrecognition or non-recognition. So there's still some work to be done, but there are tremendous applications for this. And not only that, but there is now technology that was developed in Australia that is able to recognize faces in a crowd at an angle, like from CCTV cameras. But it gets better than that. With the addition of artificial intelligence, one is able to now detect the emotions of people that you're looking at in facial recognition. So you can detect exactly if somebody's nervous, happy, sad, whatever. So imagine again you're a frontline staff in a hotel or in a bank or in any other company, and you've got augmented reality glasses on, and you can see that somebody's getting agitated or that you're getting some kind of signal, but you've got a digital overlay now interpreting that signal for you, even if you don't have the EQ or the training of an FBI agent to be able to recognize all of those subtle clues. And not only that, but it can trigger back-end actions if it looks like there's an incident about to happen, like maybe a VIP customer who's very upset, and you want management to just come down there right now and intervene. Emirates Airlines is looking at augmented reality very seriously right now in terms of equipping their staff, their flight crew, with AR glasses so that they can look at a customer's individual preferences. So if I walk onto an Emirates plane once they've rolled this out, they'll greet me by name without looking at my ticket. They'll know that I'm a vegetarian. They'll know the kind of seat that I like. They'll be able to pick up a whole bunch of information. If I was a frequent flyer with them, they would know, okay, Shara's a VIP customer, and, you know, these are the things that she likes or doesn't like. Conversely, if I happen to be a disruptive passenger, they might know that too. Or if I'm a passenger with a serious medical condition, they'll know that too. So they're looking at ways that they can use this information, much of which they have buried deep back in customer databases, to be able to do that match between a person's face and the person that they're looking at. And with travel, especially international, you need to have your passport or some sort of photo ID anyway, so the facial recognition part isn't that hard. Where it's going in the future, though, is really cool, and this is in about the 5-year horizon where we're going to start to see the emergence of smart contacts. There are a lot of companies that are looking at smart contacts in the labs right now. These pictures happen to be from Google. The big picture is from 2014, and you can see that there's still a lot of opaque bits. The little picture is from 2016, and you can see that a lot of those opaque bits are now transparent. By the time this comes out to market, it's going to be completely transparent, probably made out of a material called graphene, which is this amazing wonder material. These contact lenses will have a combination of ICT, including communications, augmented reality, and biotech. So if you can imagine that you're in a room like this and you're wearing smart contacts, you can literally, through facial identification, pick out everybody in the room, through your address book or other social media, figure out exactly who they are, whether you've met them before, and start a conversation. But here's where it gets really cool, and this is on the biotech side. There are companies that are working on auto-sensing lenses. So I wear reading glasses and I'm constantly popping them on and off. With auto-sensing, I will not need to do it. It will just do it for me automatically. And by the way, there are companies that are looking at telephoto applications as well, and infrared applications too. But it gets better still. There are pharmaceutical companies that are looking to use this as a way of testing insulin levels, because there's a chemical in our tear ducts called lacriglobin that is able to measure insulin levels, so no more pinpricks. There are other pharmaceutical companies that are looking at doing drug delivery directly through the contacts. In about 7 to 8 years' time, we're going to start seeing app stores that are smart contact app stores that combine ICT and biotech, and it will open up a whole world of opportunity for people to design applications that take advantage of both of these sciences. Qantas is already doing experiments with virtual reality. They started about 2 years ago in conjunction with Samsung with their virtual reality headset, and they did some experiments in their first class lounges and also in the first class flights. I played around with it a little bit. The headsets are still really clunky and uncomfortable. To be quite frank with you, none of the virtual reality headsets are designed for women. I've done so many demos and the damn things fall off of me all the time, and I cannot wait to get them off my face. But nonetheless, they will get lighter in weight and they will get more ergonomic in design. What Qantas has rolled out about a month ago, though, is a new virtual reality app. And you can download it to your smartphone and use it with your phone, or you could put your phone into a virtual reality headset like a Google Cardboard or some of the others, or you could use a regular virtual reality headset. And what you do, in one demo that I tried out, there was a flight over Uluru, and I thought, okay, this is the newest app, I'm going to give it a try. So I took it down on my iPhone, and as you move the iPhone around, just like you'd move your head around in glasses, you can look up and see the helicopter blades, you can look down and look all around and actually get to experience this. We're going to see a lot more of this kind of application in the travel industry. It's almost like try before you buy. You get to experience what a place might be like and decide whether you want to make a booking for that destination before you get there. And the same will be for hotel rooms. It's already starting to happen in the real estate market too. Virtual reality, though, is going to get a whole lot more exciting because the technologies that we're developing are getting higher and higher resolution. So if you think about your TV today, it's probably a high-definition TV. There's a technology that's called 4K. How many of you have heard of that? It's basically four times the definition of your HD. Beyond that, there are already technologies that are 8K, which is 4 times clearer than 4K. And let me tell you, when you start putting on virtual reality with an 8K emulation, you get to this place where it gets difficult to discern what's digital and what's real. But you don't even need to go that high resolution. I did an experiment by trialing something that Newcastle University did, which was a virtual reality demo, just filmed in HD, of an experience of actually walking off the edge of a cliff. So I'm in a room, with a perfectly flat floor. I put on the virtual reality headset, and they're saying, okay, just keep walking straight, and I could see the cliff. And as I'm getting up to the edge of the cliff, my feet are going slower and slower. Just did not want to walk over that. I'm thinking, oh, this is not good. But they eventually sort of coaxed me into doing it. And as soon as I took the step off the cliff, my stomach went right up into my throat, and I was just so happy that they designed it so that I didn't crash on the rocks below. I think that might have been really traumatic if they had. But we will see a lot of work in very immersive virtual reality worlds, many of which will encompass multiple people. So if you think of gaming, and experiences, start thinking of VR. This is a short clip that I'm going to show you that I took at the Consumer Electronics Show in January. And it's a cave that LG designed that were made up of 4K panels. And the film that I've taken on my iPhone does not do it justice, but the sense of being in there felt so lifelike. It was unbelievable. So you can see that it's made up of a whole bunch of different television screen panels, and you can see the lines. And obviously that's disconcerting, but when you go to the space view where the lines diminish, then it starts to feel like you're in outer space. And it really was an amazing experience. And the lines to get into this particular demo at CES were very, very long. It was actually one of the cooler things that I did there. There are a lot of really cool things. But having this kind of technology is going to give us a way of creating experiences where you don't have to wear augmented reality or virtual reality headsets. In fact, there's a company in the UK that is looking at these OLED technologies to design transparent aircraft fuselage. So if you can imagine sitting on an airplane in the future and looking off to the side, and just seeing, clouds from the cameras on the side of the side of the plane, that's what they have in mind, as well as being able to have sensors that watch where your head is moving and actually change the point of view depending on what you're looking at. Now, this is actually a serious company. They're one of the big 7 manufacturing clustering companies, and they do a lot of work in a lot of interesting areas, including graphene and biotech and all sorts of stuff. Now, one of the drivers for this is that by using OLED technology in the walls instead of the normal fuselage, it actually reduces the weight of the plane, which reduces fuel consumption, which reduces cost, and it provides entertainment. But, you know, there are some people that get into a glass elevator and they feel sick. Can you imagine what it'd be like at 35,000 feet, especially if you're in turbulence? You know, that may not be a very fun experience. Although it could be very cool if it was in a lightning storm and you felt protected, you know, just depending on your sense of adventure and your adrenaline junkie quotient. Where we're going to go with this in the future, though, are full sensory immersions. So how many of you have ever seen a Star Trek episode where they feature the holodeck? Only a few of you. Oh, come on. Nobody's seen Star Trek Next Generation or Voyager or any of that. Okay. So what you have, if you like, is a room that's really just a plain room, but projected on these walls and through digital avatars as well. It feels like you're in another real world. And when you go into these full sensory immersions, you'll probably be wearing clothes that have haptics woven into them. So haptics gives you the sense of touch. So if there was a character or a bush or something else and you reach out to touch it, when you're wearing clothes with haptics, it actually feels like you're touching it, or somebody touches you, you feel them. And it will have olfactory senses. We're going to start to see probably in the late 2020s, these types of full sensory immersion experiences as well. Going into a hotel room of the future is going to be a bit different than it is now as well, especially if the hotel or place that you're staying in has access to data that you choose to share with them about your personal preferences. So let's say you'd like to do yoga or a workout in the morning. Well, you might have a holograph projector that projects the image to you and actually takes you through your morning workout, or maybe that hologram will be of your family and you'll have a conversation in holography with your family who's thousands of kilometers away. But moreover, the room will know the temperature that you are most comfortable at, both when you're awake and when you're asleep. Your pillow might have built-in sensors that sort of give you a gentle massage as you're going to bed. The bathroom might have chromotherapeutic lighting that actually helps you to set the mood. Depending on the amount of information that you share, the more personalized this experience can be. Now, speaking of information sharing, one of the ways that hotels and other third parties are going to know your preferences is that it is very, very likely that in 2020 we'll start to see the emergence of personal digital avatars. And these will be the big brothers of applications that we're already using today. Things like Amazon Alexa, things like Siri, Microsoft Cortana, and a whole range, and Google Assistant as well. We are sharing so much information already with these social media ecosystems that with the application of artificial intelligence, they're starting to get to where we have natural language interactions with them on a regular basis. We talk to them, and they're now starting to get to the point with AI and voice recognition that they actually understand us most of the time, not all of the time. But in about 3 years' time, with the way that technology is doubling every 18 to 24 months, these AIs are going to get a whole lot smarter, and they're going to have access to a whole lot of information about us. Now, one of the questions is, do we want to trust an ecosystem like a social media giant, or do we want some sort of third-party avatar? But these avatars are going to do some really useful things for us. Let me show you a short clip from one company that has been working on this for a number of years, and we'll just give you an idea of how you might use your digital avatar. just do it a little bit
Just the
louder,
other
please?
day I had a meeting downtown and MagnoRail went offline. Nigel learned about it and booked a car service so I could make my next appointment on time.
Tomorrow, I had an appointment to get my car serviced. Today, my daughter's Powerball game got pushed back a couple hours. Nigel recognized this, was able to get my car in for today, got it serviced, and made it to my daughter's Powerball game on time. Nigel just rescheduled my massage for tomorrow. Thanks, Nigel.
I love how Nigel puts all of my devices into class mode when I walk into lecture. Nigel starts taking notes, downloads assignments that I need, and even starts researching topics my professor covered in class. When I meet up with my study group later, Nigel has everything ready, so we're good to go.
Digital avatars are going to be big time. And, you know, even if I think about my job, there are so many administrative tasks that I would dearly love to outsource and just have a reliable, trusted partner, and I use the word trusted, you know, as underline here, to be able to take care of some of the stuff that keeps me from doing futurist research or speaking or doing things that I actually like doing, but doing all that administrative stuff. The cities of tomorrow are going to change quite radically, and that's going to have a massive impact on the travel industry and on all of our lives. In 1800, only 3% of the world's population lived in cities. By 2010, 50% of the world's population was living in cities, and it's forecast to go up to 60% or higher in the next 15 years or so, and it could go up as high as 75%. Now, cities only take up about 2% of this planet's landmass, but we're putting more and more people into these cities, and of course that's going to change a lot of things. Moreover, cities are the biggest energy users on the planet. No surprise, lots of people living there, lots of energy. If I look at a study of energy use around the world by country, depending on the country, anywhere between 60 and 80% of the world's energy is used in their major cities. And on top of that, 19% of that energy is used for lighting. It's absolutely massive. So one of the things that's going to happen with cities is they're going to get taller and denser. And right now there's actually a bit of a race going on in Asia and the Middle East, primarily to build the tallest buildings. And in fact, along with tall buildings, they're building faster and faster lifts. The Shanghai Tower recently won a Guinness World Record for the world's fastest lift. It goes at about 74 kilometers per hour. The tower is 127 stories tall. On the way down, they have to actually slow the lift because you would literally get sick if you went down at 74 kilometers an hour. You'd probably lose it right in the lift. There's also a company called ThyssenKrupp that is starting to look at designs for lifts that go both horizontally as well as vertically using maglev technology. So some pretty cool stuff happening. Speaking of cool stuff, we're going to be seeing all kinds of driverless vehicles in cities of the future. This is a picture that I took at CES, and it's a prototype from Toyota. Most of us probably won't be driving this really ultra cool car with gull wings and fitted out with everything that you can imagine. But there will be driverless cars in all of our futures, and most of them will be electric or hybrid electric. This is another picture that I took, and this is a prototype from Honda. And Honda has an AI called Hana. So what you do is, it's an electric vehicle. You can get in and you talk to Hana in natural language, and you say, you know, Hana, take me to the office or wherever you're going. When you need to refuel, you can tell Hana to basically refuel with electricity at the time that electricity is cheapest. And Hana's smart enough to figure out when the rates are best or to sell excess electricity back to the grid. You can also say to Hana, go and make me some money, and she'll go into ride-sharing mode and start picking people up like an Uber without the Uber driver. So you can imagine that you have these cars in the future, and you've booked a car at an airport, and you've got GPS on your phone or whatever gadget it might be in 20 years' time. It might be a button rather than a phone. And the robot car hones in on your GPS and picks you up, and a little robot porter sort of comes out the back and helps you with your luggage. This is where the future cars are going. Another really interesting change to our transport is being worked on by Elon Musk, and this is Hyperloop. How many of you have heard of Hyperloop? Yeah, it's an absolutely amazing innovation. It uses tubes that are depressurized to near vacuum and then magnetic levitation to hurl pods of either people or cargo through these pipes at speeds that are faster than airplanes. So an average cruising speed would be 760 kilometers an hour. A top-end speed would be between 1,200 and 1,300 kilometers per hour. And Hyperloop is being tested right now in the Nevada desert, and the tests are looking very positive. There's already a pre-order placed from the United Arab Emirates for a Hyperloop between Abu Dhabi and Dubai, which will cut an hour-and-a-half drive down to 12 minutes. As of about 3 weeks ago, Hyperloop was being discussed in the United States as a potential high-speed rail solution along the corridor going from Washington, D.C. through to Baltimore, Philadelphia, and then New York City. And that ride would take 29 minutes. Now, I can tell you, driving it from personal experience, having lived in Washington and Philly, just from Washington to Philly is a good 3 hours, sometimes 4 if you're stuck in traffic, and then up to New York is another 2 to 3 hours. Hyperloop is also being considered in Australia, and it's a potential idea on the table. I don't know if it will go. I actually hope it does, because I think it could completely revitalize regional communities. And the idea, if you can imagine a Hyperloop up and down the East Coast, winding in and out of regional communities at ultra-fast speeds, suddenly this concept of 30-minute cities outside of the CBD becomes very real. So there are some actually substantial designs on the table. Getting between Sydney CBD and Melbourne would be 55 minutes. From Sydney to Newcastle would be 10 minutes. From Sydney to Canberra would be 17 minutes. There will be a massive impact on the way that we structure our economy if this kind of transport actually comes into fruition. And in the longer term, after it's built, it will actually start to impact property prices. So one of the questions would be, well, like, wow, you know, this could be really great, but right now, if I think about Sydney property prices, they're sky high. If a Hyperloop was built and suddenly you could actually live in Newcastle and work in the Sydney CBD and get there in 10 minutes, well, maybe that might devalue some of the property market. So there are some other implications that we need to think of as we look at these new travel technologies. Have you ever thought of flying cars? Well, this is a picture. It's a real one. I took it at CES, and because of what I do, I actually got to go up close and personal and take a peek inside, and you can see that I've got a picture of me with it. It's a prototype, but it's working, of the world's first flying taxi. It's by a Chinese company called EHang. It's just called the EHang 184. And it's capable of a 23-minute flight, single passenger. Maximum weight that it can carry is 220 pounds, so you can't be too heavy to get in there and can't have too much luggage. That's my problem, the too much luggage always. And you get in and you literally have an app and you tell it the destination and it takes you there autonomously. There are companies like Uber and Airbus that are also seriously looking at flying taxis. I saw a video from Airbus just a few days ago that showed a driverless vehicle that docks into a place where, if you like, rotors clamp onto the top of the driverless vehicle and it turns into a flying car. And now, mind you, that's just a concept, you know, an artist concept, as opposed to this, which is actually a real working prototype. We are going to see drones of all shapes and sizes in our cities, and we will have highways in the sky. And by highways in the sky, I'm talking about delineated lanes of air traffic in the middle of metropolitan areas. Drones that have autonomous capabilities and are equipped with all kinds of sensors will be in the higher airspaces, and manually controlled drones will probably be allowed to operate in the lower spaces. In the US, Amazon first put forward a proposal at a NASA symposia for highways in the sky, and that is now being worked on seriously by NASA and Amazon and a whole bunch of other people to start looking at delineating airspace. It's interesting because in the US, NASA's taking the lead, not the FAA. Here, I'm not sure who might take the lead. You know, the only logical choice is CASA, but they're saying, well, with drones, you know, we really don't have a whole lot of bandwidth to be able to do that. So it'll be interesting to follow. Robots are coming too, and they're in all shapes and sizes, and increasingly they are anime-like, you know, the sorts of things that I saw when I was a little girl watching TV. These pictures are from the Consumer Electronics Show, and these guys right here, these have Amazon Alexa integrated in with them. So literally you've got this robot, and it's in effect a digital avatar that's a robot. Another interesting one is Lubot, the one at the top, which is a little roly-poly cute toy that's connected to the internet, has natural voice language recognition, and designed for kids between 2 and 12. Kids are going to grow up talking to robots. And then this one down here, which is from Futurist, it's actually been rolled out in the San Jose airport, and it's a digital advertising board, and we'll take your picture and put your face up on the robot's face as well. There's already a robot hotel in Japan. It's called the Weird Hotel, Hanana in Japanese, and you get greeted either by T-Rex, by a Japanese anime woman, or a little doll. And when you get up to your room, there's another little doll on your bed that is your in-room concierge. You've got another robot that takes your luggage up to your room, and another robot that stows it away. In the Hilton in McLean, Virginia, they're using a robot called Connie. It's based on Neo, which is from a company called Aldebaran, which is now owned by SoftBank. And Connie is a concierge, and you can ask Connie about hotel amenities or local attractions. There are robot bartenders on some of the Royal Caribbean lines. One of my girlfriends went on a cruise with this, and this was like the big hit that she just absolutely loved on the cruise. In China, there are already robot waiters. There's a restaurant where you walk in, you get greeted by a robot concierge. In the kitchen, you've got robots that are doing the stir-frying and dumpling cooking, and then these other robots bringing you your meal. We're going to start to see humanoid robots as well. This is a real picture from an experiment being done by Yale University, where they've done a 3D scan of a human hand, and they've designed a robot hand that mimics the articulation of grasp of a human hand. So right now you control it through a glove, but what they actually want to do is to be able to grow tendons and skin on top of this. And the idea is that this would be used for prosthetics if somebody's lost a limb. So you can imagine if you've had a horrible accident and you can have it replaced by a robot hand that is exactly the same shape as the hand that you lost, with exactly the same skin tone, and it matches completely. But this is actually the dawn of where we're going to start to see real robots. Now, mind you, they haven't started on exactly how they're going to do the bioprinting yet. It will be with 3D bioprinting, no doubt, you know, or some combination of bioprinting and growing cells. But this stuff is happening in the research labs, and it's real. How many of you have seen the original movie Westworld? A few of you are old enough to have seen it. How many of you have seen the series that was on just recently? Fantastic series on artificial intelligence. Well, in this series, the humanoid robots look so real that people do all kinds of very human things with them and also abuse the robots. But what happens is that they've actually gained sentience, the sense of self. You know, who am I? And they rise up and rebel against the humans. There was a conference in Asilomar, California in January of AR researchers, and one of the questions that was put forward to this panel of people that are in the field of building these AIs is, when do you think robots will achieve human intelligence? And interestingly, 50% of them thought that it could very well happen between 2040 and 2050. And by the year 2075, 95% of the researchers thought it was highly likely. Pretty sort of amazing and scary at the same time. So what's going to happen to us humans? Are we going to continue to be purely biological creatures, or are we going to take technology into our bodies too? Well, I think the first thing we'll take into our body is something like smart contacts that are removable, but there's a lot of work going on with brain-machine interfaces, and you may have heard about some of the work that Elon Musk and others are doing with neural links directly into the brain. Elon founded a company called Neuralink, which would actually sit between your brain and add an AI capability connecting you to the web. Ray Kurzweil has another idea where you would do 3D printing of DNA and have these little DNA bots swimming in you and connecting your neocortex directly to the web. Imagine wanting to, quote, Google something and instead you're just thinking it. Or imagine that you want to send an email or a message and off it goes. Oops, didn't mean to send that one, you know, or a stray thought. You know, it's going to get pretty wonderful and wacky in the coming years. And I do believe that we are going to see cities in outer space, and it's not going to be by NASA or any of the national space agencies that do it. It's going to be private industry. We have people like, or companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin and a whole range of others that are looking at reusable rockets. And by the way, SpaceX is already profitable delivering rocket payloads up into space. There's another entrepreneur, Robert Bigelow, who's taking an old idea from NASA of inflatable space stations and starting to look at how he can commercialize that, basically building a space habitat where people could go up and into space. I was listening to a podcast from a space expert a few days ago, and he thinks that within the next 10 to 20 years, space exploration for common people is going to start to become an absolute reality. Elon Musk wants to go to Mars by 2022. That's not that very far away. So where are we going in the future? Well, I think that maybe not in our lifetimes unless we've got genetic engineering really solid down, we will start to see interplanetary travel as an interesting travel destination. And if you follow quantum physics, you'll know a little bit about this theory of being able to open and close traversable wormholes to get you from point A to point B very quickly. I think that that is certainly a possibility. Highly theoretical. We're probably looking at the year 2200 or beyond before anything like that happens, unless, of course, we happen to run into an intelligent extraterrestrial civilization before then that has already figured it out. And by the way, I was listening to an astronomer a few days ago, and he believes that we're going to discover life, which will probably be microbial, but within the next 10 to 15 years, extraterrestrial life. He thinks there's a very good chance. Who knows whether or if we'll actually meet extraterrestrials that are actually sentient beings. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but if I look out to the year 3000, it's very likely that we're going to have interplanetary commerce, and that is certainly going to be a game changer for the travel industry and many others. So I hope you've enjoyed this journey into the future and the far future and get some takeaways that you might apply to your own business on the digital side.
We're going to save questions because Shara is actually joining us for lunch, so that'll give you probably more of a personal opportunity to ask all of the things that I'm sure you're wondering. I'm going for the robotic hand because the idea that I could actually genuinely become Luke Skywalker is awesome. I am going on the transparent plane despite the likelihood that I'll vomit. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other things you would love to ask Shara about because my overall response to that was just simply wow.